since I made an outline for this one, I'm stuck here, so. Over the past 2 years, I've been highly influenced by people that I call the church next door. I was raised in, a white church. And it's been there since like the 60s. And Mormons moved in next door, and then maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, a Church of Christ moved in called First United Church of Christ. And they're, I guess, what you call a black church. So, we had a Bible study on Sunday nights, like our youth group had like a Bible study, and there was a challenge at one point in the book to go visit a context that you've never visited before. So we decided to take that challenge and went one Sunday to Ferguson Heights. And needless to say, we stood out a little bit. And it was kind of funny at one point. They would have the visitors stand up and introduce themselves. And so we all had to stand up and introduce ourselves. They turned to us like people say that or anything. But yeah, so we went that first Sunday morning and we wanted to like connect with them, like all the youth people wanted to connect with them, but the adults didn't really help us out on that, so we kind of just disconnected. So that was like the first interaction we had with them. Then the summer between 9th and 10th grade, I went to this conference called the Legacy Conference, and that's when I actually saw the church for what it really was, which is diverse. I've always been told that, but I never really experienced that since I've kind of gotten this notion that American Nazarenes are white, just because I've been to like General Assemblies and stuff where you have all the Nazarenes from around the world coming, and you can tell who the American ones are, So I've never really seen that the church was diverse. At Lake Street, at the conference I went to, it's Urban Mission Center, and there's like 30% white, 30% black, and 30% Hispanic, and then 10% other. Like that's the demographic of it. And that week, I started to understand how beautiful and important it was to the identity of the church, that the church is diverse. And so that was the first thing the Legacy kind of did to me. And then the second thing the Legacy did to me was it made me want to reach out to my neighbors more, like my literal neighbors. So I got home and I realized that I'm a white church sitting next to a black church, and we're preaching the same gospel, and we shouldn't be divided. So God put the thought into my head that I should start going over there on Sunday nights. And I started going with my friends, Olivia and Heather, but then they ended up not being able to come with me, so I started going by myself. And it was kind of awkward at first. I mean, it was awkward for like 3/4 of the year that I've been going. But like, I didn't really know anybody, but I kept going. And then eventually Brian, the youth leader, invited me to go to Depot, which is like their youth group. And so I decided to start going, and it was really awesome. But awkward times called for awkward measures, and there were many awkward times. But like the first time that I went, I didn't know anyone, and I was scared out of my mind, and I was nervous, and I was scared. Not because I'm like scared of black people or anything, but like because like I'm the only like person that I knew there, and so I didn't know anybody, and I stood out, and I don't like standing out because I'm shy. So it was just like it was crazy. I remember there'd be times where I'd be walking there because they live right down the street from me too, because I live right next to my church. So I was walking there, and I'd be like, why am I walking here? Like, God, why are you making me do this? But I kept going, and I endured the awkward hugs, awkward situations, awkward conversations, the awkward times where I didn't actually know your name, and I kept going. And the first time that I opened up was when Brian, he asked everyone, why don't we actually give our lives to Christ and stuff. Like, the devos are very conversational. He doesn't preach at you, but it's like a little setting, and we just talk. And he asked why don't we actually follow Christ? And so he made us go around the room and tell everyone why do we follow Christ? And I shared my testimony that time. That was the first time I really talked and opened up to them. And nerve-wracking, but I knew that I had to say that. So that was the first time that like people started to for real talk to me, and I wasn't just a random white girl that started coming, you know. And after that, it started to not be really awkward anymore. There were 3 big events that I went to. They had an overnighter, and I have 2 funny, well, one funny story and then a serious story from that. So at this overnighter, we watched a movie, and Brian gave 2 rules to everyone. He's like, don't talk and don't be on your phones. But of course, everyone broke those rules. So he was kind of annoyed. So he got in the center of everyone and like had everyone like kind of circle around him, and he basically said like, you know, no wonder you guys don't follow God, because I mean you can't even listen to 2 simple rules of don't talk and don't use your phone during this movie. And he wanted to make a point of like what Jesus did for us or whatever. So he called somebody up from the crowd. He's like, spit on me. And they're like, no, we can't spit on you. He's like, spit on me. I want you to spit on me. And they're like, no, we can't do it. And so like they kept going. He called like 5 people up, and he's like, spit on me. And then like, you know, they wouldn't do it because this is Brian. Like, you don't spit on Brian. He's, I mean, tall dude that's like, you know, he's buff and yeah. But so then he called me up, and he's like, spit on me. And I was like, I can't do that. And he's like, because I had talked to him before, like, he was probably the first one I opened up to. And like, he's like, you know what I'm doing here, you gotta do this, come on, Heidi. And I'm like, but I can't. And he's like, you're the only one that's gonna do this. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yes. So I closed my eyes, and and I spit, but it didn't reach him. It's just like, yeah, it like went like that, like, and it was the most awkward thing ever. But at that point, it was awkward, but like everyone knew me, so it wasn't as awkward as it could be, which is really good. But like that was. He did end up like explaining his point. Somebody slapped him and somebody else hit him with like a cord or something, and he was like explaining how Christ, like, this is what Christ did for you. And a little later I kind of realized, like, what if somebody just walked in on that? Like, the only white girl sitting on this tall black man. That would have been, but yeah, I thought that was really funny. And then a little later, like during the night, it was like 2 or so, and I decided I wanted to go hang out with the adults. So I went and started hanging out and talking, and we talked for like a good 3 hours on like serious stuff and like racial issues and all that. And it was like we had really good conversations. They have older people there that were alive during the civil rights, and like we was there for MLK's speech and all that, and like so I got to talk to some of them, and like it was really interesting, and I got to tell them about like how it's been really bothering me lately that churches are divided and segregated and stuff. Like the fact that our schools are integrated, our workplaces are integrated, our neighborhoods are integrated, but our churches are still segregated. Like most of the churches are still segregated. I find that to be really disheartening. Like, shame on us. We should have been the forerunners in that. You know, like Martin Luther King was a pastor. You know, and our churches are still segregated. It doesn't make sense. So anyway. So the second, we talked about that for a little while, and then the second like big event that I went to with them was a youth conference. I went, they had like a youth conference at Chesterfield for a weekend, and so I decided to go with them. And I walked in the door, and I was literally the only white girl in a group of 200-300 black people, and it was absolutely wonderful. And it was like. There were a lot of funny, like, hilarious moments. The first being, we were in the, like, outside our hotel room, and Brian was trying to get everyone's attention. He's like, guys. And, like, nobody was listening. He's like, black people in Heidi. And he's like, and Jasmine. Jasmine was our Asian. And so he's like, okay, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do for our like, announcement or our introduction or whatever. because they call churches and the churches stand up and do like a little dance or a little song or something like that. Like churches were doing the Harlem Shake and we hadn't even planned on anything. So he's like, what are we gonna do? And like everyone's like throwing around ideas. He's like, okay, I got it. He's like, we're gonna stand up, we're gonna all look at Heidi, and she's gonna say, hi, and then we're gonna all sit down. And he was like, First United Church of Christ, bring in diversity. And I was like, one person at a time. And he was like, that's perfect. So we decided to do that. And it was a really hilarious moment. Because, everyone, like, they had like, stuff planned out. Like, they did songs, and I said earlier, they did the Harlem Shake, and there was other people that had, like, a whole rap going. And we stand up, they call us, and we stand up, and, like, I'm in the middle. And everyone, like, our group, like, turns and looks at me. And, like, I look around for a little bit, and then, like, wait for it to be quiet. And then I was just like, hi! And then we sat down. And, like, there was, like, 5 people in the crowd that stood up and said hi back. And, like, throughout the weekend, I had people randomly saying hi to me, which was really humorous. And then another funny moment was when we were at the banquet, there was this one dude who was a security officer, and he was a cop. He was with the First Night Church of Christ, or not First Night, but he was with the Church of Christ, like, conference or whatever. And he was the security guard for this event. And he was a cop that lived in Chicago. And so he was rewarding teams for tournaments and stuff. They had basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, and he was rewarding them their awards and all that. And he kept saying, like I was like, should I hide or something? Like he kept saying some stuff, and it was really funny. It wasn't like racist or anything, but it was humorous. He kept saying stuff about how he's like, this is what he said, he's a black man. He's like, I'm not used to black kids being this good, and like stuff like that. And he was like, the funniest moment. He kept saying those things, and the funniest moment in that was when he was presenting the awards, and he was like, I don't know what it is about us black people, but we're really good at athletics. And then like my whole table like busted out laughing, and like I'm just like, what do I do? Like, do I hide or something? But that was a really fun event, and I've learned a lot. And then another, I won't go into this one as much, but the most recent thing that big event that happened was they had a rap concert / spoken word night, and I brought some friends with me. Actually, Andrew Francis, and then 3 dudes from my church, Billy, Brendan Lehman, and a dude named Kevin. And they came with me, and it was really fun, and they really liked it. And I got to serve with them on Saturday morning with their youth group and all that. So, as you can tell, there are a lot of stories in this. But that's just a few of them. I don't have time to tell them all. I've learned a lot about racial tensions and cultural differences, and the most importantly and the biggest thing that I've learned is how the church really is. Like, it's not one culture, one race. It's everyone centered around the gospel and centered around Christ. And I absolutely love the people at First Night, and like I realized that they were my brothers and sisters in Christ, and it's really awesome. I feel like I belong there because of the fact that I don't belong there. Like, the only reason that I'm there is because of the gospel and because of Jesus. Like, that is the only thing that connects us, and that's really how it should be. Because when the church is diverse, then it displays that the only thing that's like bringing us together has to be Christ. The first place that Christians were called Christians was in Antioch. And Antioch was a diverse church. There's nothing else to call them but Christians. There's nothing else, What are you going to call them? So it's been really wonderful, like, being in that church and getting to know them. And they really like me for some reason, and I really like them. And it's really awesome. The church is rooted and connected by Christ and Christ alone, not culture, race, ethnicity, political party, or denomination. And the gospel renews your vision in those things. Like, it helps you see, it doesn't make you colorblind, but it helps you see that each person is made in God's image, and because each person is made in God's image, like, that displays his intricacies and the fact that he is, like, beautiful and intricate, you know? Like, he's not just like this one, he's not a old white dude with beard, you know? Like, God is so much bigger than that. So, I've learned a lot